Camo Thorup. I'm Bryce Thorup. We are video professionals.
My name is Jacob Thorup. I was born in 1982, and I am involved in the video production arena, and I caught the tail end of video production in the VHS realm, so I have a certain love and nostalgia for VHS.
Which VCR is right for you, VHS or Beta?
What do I know about the format war between VHS and Betamax?
This is what set the playing field for all things visual. No, not really. It wasn't that big of a deal. The little I do know about it is it was the quintessential war of visual media in the last 30 years.
Betamax tapes were smaller. Were they? I thought that was cooler. Yeah. All I know is Betamax was a better format, but it was more expensive, and I think that was one of the determining factors of that war. So,
the difference we're talking about between Beta, which was technically superior, and VHS was 10 horizontal lines of resolution. So the difference in video or image quality was very, very small. Most people could not see it, but to get a complete movie on one tape, that was a big deal. To get 2 movies on one tape, that was even a bigger deal. So the battle was won by recording time, and the quality was so slight difference between the two, it wasn't significant. Even though back then they tried to make a big deal of it, they were actually very close. And you had to have test instruments and test signals to actually see the difference.
Betamax, I think the tapes were an hour or so, whereas VHS in the standard play mode could go 2 hours. And so that by itself, I could put a full movie on one tape. There's other factors that played into it that are a little more coarse. Many people say that the reason that VHS won out is because the pornography industry actually came in and said, hey, this is great, we can put full movies on it. And that's why, in theory, VHS won out over Betamax.
Record times in the porn industry. But I remember early on the fight between the two trying to establish a dominant format. I want to say it was the rental industry and cheaper technology. I think the VHS was broader accepted, where Sony was trying to do more of a licensing control, so it was a little bit more expensive.
The format war between Beta and VHS. I think probably the reason VHS won was purely the accessibility of media. You know, the new release movies, the distributors, you know, like Time Warner and all these different companies, New Line Cinema and all them were all releasing on VHS, and Beta would get it second. So anybody that wanted to see it first would always get it on VHS first, and so it just kind of put Beta at a negative. Even though Sony had Sony Pictures, and just the way that the releases were, there's just the VHS seemed to get, and the machines got more popular, so more of the rental shops had more VHS than Beta, and the Beta selections were really small.
Okay, so Sony, when they developed Betamax, took what they learned from U-matic, which when you insert it in the machine, the lid, the front protector for the tape opens up, 2 little fingers come out of here, move out, and the only way you could record video in those days was a very high-speed head drum, which was about 2.5 inches in diameter. And the tape had to go almost all the way around it, so these 2 little fingers went in.
Well, the big thing about when Sony developed Beta, they wanted to have a high picture quality, and then they had a kind of a crossover technology from the VTRs. And the VTRs, the way that the tape ran on the video head, because it's what they call a helical recording technology, and there's 2 heads, one for each field, and so it has to rotate at 3,600 RPM to get 2 fields. And that one wrapped the 270 degrees. But the tapes were always hard to handle, and that's why Sony came up with the cartridge, so that you could just put the cartridge in the machine, but it worked exactly the same way as the old VTRs.
But it would pull the tape out and wrap it around this head drum, and the head drum was spinning at very high speed, as I recall, about 3,600 RPM. And it would write the video signals to the tape, what they call helvetical scanning at an angle. So for video, so the head drum was tipped at an angle and the tape came straight out, so it wrote each track right next to the other track and left a little what they call a guard band between the two, so the 2 signals didn't interfere, and it used an RF carrier.
One of the main things is VHS only wrapped 180 degrees around the video head, and Sony did 270. So it got more information on the tape, and that's why the picture quality was better. VHS, when they made that technology, it was complicated mechanism-wise to make a mechanism that would wrap the tape 270 degrees around the video, what they call the drum assembly. VHS simplified that, so they wanted to when you put the tape in, it just would be a simple mechanism that just went up and wrapped about a little more. It's about 190 degrees actually around the head. It was a much simpler mechanism, so it was cheaper to manufacture. If it wasn't for the VHS system and the beta system, I don't think any of the stuff that we have right now would even exist. You know, people wouldn't take on cameras the way they do, because video, I think, just opened up a world that it's just like how the iPhone fundamentally changed the way phones are. I think VHS and the Betamax and all that did the very same thing when it comes to video and TV, and why it came about, and what I think was one of the big things about it in society. It gave people the ability to time shift their TV watching. You didn't have to sit in front of the TV when the program came on and watch it right then. You could record it and watch it some other time, and I think that fundamentally changed the way society watched TV.